Angel Reese is triggered. She has shot off multiple unhinged tweets. There's a whole lot of me, and all this. I went back and looked at some of her social media, and it's almost all of it starts with I've, me, my. I mean, how about team? What happened to that? Well, I mean, it's wild. She plays the victim. She has turned into the heavyweight chain, the Muhammad Ali of victims.
So this whole thing with the Unrivaled League blew up a while back, and it is still worth looking back at because of how messy it got once the coaching names dropped. The league out of Miami had been building hype for months leading into its first season, and people were watching closely to see what kind of roster and staff they were putting together. Names were rolling out bit by bit through the month, and fans were keeping track of every single one. But the real firework went off the day the head coaches got announced because nobody was ready for who they threw into that mix. Before getting into all that, though, there was something else making rounds at the same time that completely stole the show for a minute.
Turned into the heavyweight chain, the Muhammad Ali of victims when it comes to anything online, which is odd because I swear nobody would have a clue who you were if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark. I mean, seriously, nobody would know. So let's get to this. Let's get to the headline first. And then we'll get to Angel Reese. I mean, coach killer? Can we just keep it real? Is Barbie a coach killer already after one season? It sort of feels that way, to be quite honest.
Caitlin Clark showed up to an LPGA golf tournament, and the whole thing went absolutely sideways in terms of attention. She pulled in around 34 million impressions across social media just from that one outing. 7 million of those came straight from WNBA and LPGA channels, and the rest came from people on X talking about it non-stop. The numbers were ridiculous, and people could not stop pointing out what Clark does every single time she steps into any kind of spotlight.
It sort of feels that way, to be quite honest with you. Seriously. Chicago Sky fired head coach Teresa Weatherspoon just one season with the team. The Chicago Sun-Times reported Thursday night, citing multiple sources. Check this out. The second line from ESPN is Angel Reese's reaction. Not the specifics. Angel Reese's reactions. Seriously. Sky rookie.
Comments were flying around saying she is the biggest name in all of sports right now, not just basketball. People were putting her in the same breath as guys like LeBron James and Michael Jordan in terms of pure recognition. Whether that holds up or not is up for debate, but at that particular moment, nobody could deny the pull she had. The Unrivaled League itself was set up by owners Daisha Kirby and Brianna Stewart, and they had already locked in a media deal with TNT, which made it seem like the whole operation was headed somewhere serious.
Angel Reese appeared to confirm the news on social media, saying she was quote, heartbroken. My God, did she have a bowel movement too? Can y'all make sure you let us know that? My God. Weatherspoon was hired October 12th and led the Sky to a 13-27 record. Chicago stayed in playoff position for much of the second half of the season, despite struggling to a 3-13 record after the Olympic break, ultimately losing Reese to a...
But then the coaching staff got posted, and that is when things got loud. The 6 head coaches announced were Phil Handy, Adam Hurton, Nola Henry, DJ Sackman, Andrew Wade, and Teresa Weatherspoon. Phil Handy and the rest of the group were mostly fine in people's minds. The one name that immediately set people off was Weatherspoon.
Losing Reese to a wrist injury September 7th was too much to overcome. Okay, if you say so. Reese had a strong season, setting a WNBA record with 15 consecutive double-double. What does that got to do with my God? She thanked Weatherspoon in an emotional post on X on Thursday night. Even ESPN cannot make this about the coach. Seriously. I mean, if you wanted to...
She had just gotten let go from the Chicago Sky not too long before this, and the reasons behind that firing were still fresh in everyone's memory. There were serious accusations that came out of Chicago about how she ran things with that team. The report said she had been bending over backwards to inflate Angel Reese stats, specifically making sure Reese was the one grabbing rebounds even when Camila Cardoso, who was way more efficient around the basket, should have been the one in that role. The whole thing pointed to Weatherspoon playing favorites and letting a couple of players run the show while the rest of the squad suffered for it.
If you wanted to call it out, then maybe uh, if Angel Reese would have made some of these missed layups and wasn't trying to stat pad, this coach probably still employed right now. Let's just keep it real. Let's keep it real. If she would have made shots, this coach is still there. All right, but that didn't happen. So this is what she said. My God. And people called her out for.
So for Unrivaled to turn around and hand her a coaching job almost right away looked really bad to a lot of people. The thinking was that nobody else in the WNBA was going to touch her after everything that came out, so Unrivaled basically became her only option. Fans were not buying the idea that she deserved another shot, and the comments were brutal. People were pointing out that she looked genuinely thrilled in the announcement photo, which made it worse because she clearly knew the situation she was walking away from.
Called her out for one specific thing that made absolutely no sense. I'm heartbroken. I'm literally lost for words knowing what this woman meant to me in such a pivotal point in my life. She was the only person that believed in me. That's probably what got her fired, to be honest. All right? She was not doing the right thing for the team. Look, she should have told you, grab rebounds and pass it out. Grab rebounds and pass the ball out. You can't shoot.
Some were convinced that Angel Reese had something to do with it too. Like maybe the whole setup was done so Reese and Weatherspoon could end up on the same page again and the stat padding could keep going somewhere with less scrutiny. On top of the Weatherspoon mess, there was another thing that bothered a chunk of fans. Out of the 6 coaches, only 2 were women. For a league that was supposed to be celebrating women's basketball, people found it strange that the coaching staff skewed so heavily male.
And until you can shoot over 50%, don't shoot. The one that trusted me. Many don't know what it's like to be a black woman. You really went race. Okay. Like to be a black woman. It says black women. In sports, when nobody believes in you, you had a tough job. It's a league full of black lesbian activists. There could not be a better league set up for a black woman to have a job.
Tweets started popping up, asking where all the women coaches were, and whether the league was actually serious about supporting women in the sport or just using the idea to sell tickets. The exact number of qualified women coaches available was not clear to most people, but the optics of a 4-2 split did not sit well, and it became another talking point alongside the Weatherspoon situation. The Caitlin Clark question was also hanging over the whole league at that point. Everyone wanted to know if she was going to sign up and play.
Now they have about 32 names released, and Caitlin Clark is a big discussion surrounding this league because everybody want to know, is Caitlin Clark going to join? And as of right now, we don't know yet. Owners being Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart is definitely trying to make a splash in the basketball industry. Signing a big-time media rights deal with TNT is looking like they could be on the up and up. That is until today when it came out who the head coaches was. Now, I'm here to tell you, Doug, I think it's cool, me personally, but it looked like some fans is not happy about it.
Nothing had been confirmed yet, but her name kept coming up in every conversation about Unrivaled because people understood that her involvement would completely change the size of the audience. The league was still releasing player names throughout the month, so there was still time for an announcement, but fans were already getting restless, waiting for an answer. All in all, the Unrivaled coaching reveal turned out to be one of those moments where the league shot itself in the foot right when it was trying to build goodwill. Between putting Weatherspoon back in a coaching chair and the gender breakdown of the staff, there were enough things for people to chew on and complain about for weeks afterward.
Happy about it. Now, before we get into that story, we got to talk about our girl, Caitlin Clark. Yes, Caitlin Clark is definitely the needle mover. When it came to that golfing event, she set the nation on fire with 34 million impressions online. Let's pull it up right now. People is ecstatic about this. Now, when you talk about somebody moving the needle, Caitlin Clark is definitely that. You can't say needle without saying Caitlin, bro, because she is the needle mover. Now, this right here is buzzing all.
So, looking back at what went down with the Chicago Sky situation, it really showed how fast things can fall apart when a roster starts eating itself from the inside. Teresa Weatherspoon got let go after just 1 year running things, and the entire circus that followed turned into way more of a spectacle than it ever needed to be. The Sky put together a 13-27 record under Weatherspoon, which pretty much tells the whole story right there. They managed to stay in the hunt for a playoff spot for a decent chunk of the second half of the season, but once the Olympic break rolled around, everything started crumbling.
Mover. Now, this right here is buzzing all over social media right now. It literally just dropped seconds ago in the midst of me getting ready to make this video. Said Caitlin Clark generated tons of buzz, hitting the links with the LPGA for the Anika Pro Amateur. On top of LPGA, 7 million social media impressions. Wednesday media coverage on the social and X content about Caitlin earned an additional 27.3.
A 3-13 stretch after that point made climbing back out almost impossible, and then Angel Reese going down hurt on September 7th basically shut the door on any chance of turning things around. Now here is where it gets messy. A lot of the noise surrounding this whole situation had nothing to do with Weatherspoon and everything to do with how Reese carried herself on social media after the news dropped. When word got out that Weatherspoon was gone, Reese hopped online and dropped this long emotional tribute.
About Caitlin earned an additional 27.3 million. 34 million earned and on social media. Let's check out what some of these comments say. They say that Shank the shot into the crowd on purpose for a viral video. We love it. They so silly. This another, no, that's just something else. Motion. I tried telling people at this point she's the face of sports. People will support her whenever she goes. Just wish her.
She called herself heartbroken, said she could barely put words together, and talked about how Weatherspoon was the one person throughout her career who actually stood by her. She wrapped it up by saying everyone comes into your life for a reason and a season, and that Weatherspoon was the best reason and season she had ever experienced. People started tearing it apart.
Just wish her own league understood that. Yes, I'm gonna heart this comment right here because I completely agree with this right here, guys. Caitlin Clark is the face of sports. People can say what they want. I feel like it used to be like LeBron James, Floyd Mayweather, obviously Michael Jeffrey Jordan. You had him. But when you're talking about sports as a whole, Caitlin Clark's name and face is more recognizable worldwide. I know like Coach.
That does not hold up when you look at how things actually worked out because Reese was drafted there. She never had a say in where she ended up. The whole framing of the tribute made it sound like a personal choice that was never actually hers to make. One person in the replies compared reading it to going through an obituary, and that was not really an exaggeration based on the tone of the whole thing.
Worldwide, I know like Coach Prime and the Buffs doing their thing, Shador, Travis Hunter, but when we're talking about sports here, bro, I don't want to hear nothing about Aaron Judge either. We're talking global success, not just here in the States. Globally, Caitlin Clark's name is definitely ringing bells, man. Yep, Caitlin Clark is a true superstar. She's the real deal. Damn motion. Welcome to the Caitlin Clark effect. We keep telling people this.
Beyond that single post, Reese had been putting out a string of tweets that kept drawing attention for all the wrong reasons. Almost every single one of them centered around herself. The words were heavy on I and me and my throughout, which stood out when the whole thing was supposed to be about a team and what went wrong together. One post in particular stood out. Reese went on about how the media had spent the past couple of years feeding off her struggles and turning her into a bad guy to drive engagement.
To the Caitlin Clark effect. We keep telling people this. I got to heart that one right there. Yes, man. Shout out to Sandy. CC is what? Get out of here. You a hater, bruh. Need that Grace Berger verse? Yes. She's a demon motion. The WNBA will find a way to say that this is a racial issue. Like, I don't think they're saying, I don't know, man. I just feel like I feel like they're not trying to push.
She said she had let it go on for too long and was done allowing it. She also brought up launching a podcast as a way to finally tell her own side of things and take the narrative back into her own hands. That specific post got torn up by just about everyone who saw it. The main issue people raised was that Reese had actively courted the villain image herself not that long before.
They're not trying to push a race issue. It's the people surrounding the W, like the veterans and the old players and stuff like that. I don't feel like Kathy's pushing a race issue. I just feel like it's the people surrounding the league that is. When you look at it as a whole like that. Kathy and the league per se is not pushing any race issue that I've seen. But let's get back to the topic of discussion, and that is this Unrivaled league, dog. So, like I stated,
She showed up to a game against Caitlin Clark wearing Joker shoes, basically leaning into the bad guy role on purpose. Embracing being the antagonist and then turning around to complain about being treated like one felt pretty hollow to most people watching the situation unfold. There is also a serious conversation to be had about whether Reese herself played a direct part in Witherspoon losing her job. The argument that kept getting brought up was around stat padding.